day, viewers, and welcome to Reminiscences. Our guest today is Ambassador Ahmed Shehu Yusufari, who is a veteran of the Northern and Federal Civil Service, where he served as Assistant Private Secretary to the first Premier of Northern Nigeria, and then eventually moved to the Federal Service, where he was Ambassador, and ultimately the State Chief Protocol between 1988 and 1994, before finally retiring in Maiduguri, where we have come to meet him. You are welcome, sir, to the program.
Thank you.
As usual, we start with your early days. I know you started school in here in Maiduguri. Can you tell us a little about it?
Well, at the time I was school-going age. That particular year, age of 7, 8 used to be. There was no school in Yusufari.
In your village, there was no school at all?
Well, in the village where I was born, no.
Yes.
I moved to Yusufari to be with my namesake, so a friend of my father who had no child at the time, and then he had a wife who wanted to have someone around, and she said, well, you have a friend, your friend has a son named after you.
So you grew up in his house?
Yeah, in his house. In his house.
Mm.
So the woman died, I think, while I was still very young. I don't remember what she looked like. Then the other people said, look, it's not right. The right thing is for you to marry a younger woman who would bear children for you. And then he accepted. And then there are Fulani speaking to his 3 wives there. 2 were Fulani speaking. One, her father was from Sokoto, and she was born in Baga here. And then, well, somehow they wanted to go to Hajj, but they could not make it. So this is how it started. I grew up in the house, but my village was not far away, about 5-6 kilometers away from Yusufari. And then when time came to open a school, people, the people from the native authority who went to get enlist, children were there, and I was helping. I was called to help.
You didn't include yourself?
No, I didn't.
Well,
I was asked to give names.
Yes.
So he said, no, he is not my son. So the others kept quiet. But he didn't tell them what he was going to do. So the following morning, the next day, he took me home to the village. Mm. Then my father was worried. What happened? Is he sick? He said, no. What happened? He said, no, they said they would take him to Boko school. And I told them that it's not my son. He said, oh, you made a mistake. Shouldn't have said that.
At what point did you move to Maiduguri to hire?
Oh, okay, I moved to Maiduguri after 5 years in the thing, because they had only 2 classes before. And then during my 2nd year, I was sick. All I remember myself is I was crawling. I could not walk. Mm. I just, and then he took me on a horseback to the village. Was my mother. So then they started complaining, no, maybe it was a trick, he is not sick, he just ran away. Okay, he went.
Maybe you didn't like school?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they said, okay, you go and bring him. Fortunately, the very day he came to take me, my namesake, to take me back to Yusufari, I got up on my feet. Yeah. So everybody was happy. My God. So they brought me, and I went to the Lawan's house and the district head's house also. So they said, look, he was sick. look at him, he was sick. So, you know, like that. So because I was away, I lost 1 year. I lost 1 year. So in 1953, I sat down, wrote the exam for middle school. I passed, and then I traveled down to Maiduguri with about 7 others, you know, from the area.
And eventually you went to government
so
college.
I started in 1954, the middle school, January 54. Yeah.
And eventually to government college, Maiduguri.
Yes, yes.
Was it the only college then? Because
well, it was secondary school. After it was secondary school in 1956, then they separated it, the middle school, the primary school and secondary school. So I even went in 1956 for the royal visit when Queen Elizabeth came to Kaduna. I was one of those selected to go.
From the government college or from the
no,
middle
not
school?
government college, for the royal visit.
Yes.
Yeah, I was, that was my last year in primary school, 1956. From 57, I joined the secondary school. So until 1962. Yeah, so in 1962, after the exam, then we were free to go. So I applied for scholarship. It didn't come because it would be difficult for my father to understand, you know, that after all this sacrifice and everything he did, I would still go farther away from Maiduguri or from Yusufari. I said, so I didn't let him know. I didn't suggest that he should pay. I applied. It took a long time. They didn't even acknowledge. So someone suggested that, look, there is the late Waziri Ibrahim Waziri, the minister. So his younger brother was in the Ministry of Establishment in charge of recruitment, staff recruitment. So
here in Maiduguri?
No, he was in Kaduna.
Okay.
So he asked for names of people to be given to him to come. So I went. When we went, and then they said, okay, would appoint you into the executive grade, and we'll take you to the Institute of Administration for training. So I said, okay. But when I went for the interview, Abubakar Imam, maybe I had a file there, then they knew I had applied. So he said, you want to, what you said you wanted to go to the Institute of Administration. At that time, you know, they were recruiting people to SGOs and whatnot, and even degree courses they were doing there. I said, yes, I wanted that. But he said, what about this job? They have already given you an offer and you have accepted. I said, yes, because I didn't hear. He said, yeah, I didn't hear from you. He said, you can't have it both ways. So I said, look, if a decision is made firmly that I'm going to get this scholarship, then I will resign this one. He said, no, we cannot do these things. So you make the decision yourself. Cannot help. So I said, okay. A bus in hand is worth more than two in the bush.
Yes.
So I took the one that was sure.
That you stuck to the job.
Yes.
Which was a clerical job?
No, not clerical.
Yes.
You know, executive.
Executive.
Yeah, executive. So we went to be trained. You know, the clerical staff are below us. So
you eventually went to the Institute of Administration.
Yes,
anyway.
I did.
As an in-service?
Yeah, but for executive officer training.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went for executive officer training. And I did the training. I came, I got posted to the Ministry of Animal and Forest Resources. Yeah. Then soon afterwards, a vacancy occurred in Sardauna's private office there, and they needed a replacement. At that time, it was Ahmed Talib, former Secretary, Minister of Finance, acting for Akilu, because Akilu was away, Ali Akilu was away.
Ali Akilu is the Secretary of the government?
Yes, the Secretary of the government. And then a recommendation went, including my name, So, I think because he found that they said, okay, I speak a little Fulfulde, I am Kanuri, speak a little Fulfulde, Hausa, and a little Arabic, Shua Arabic. Then he said, well, in this case, he's the obvious choice.
Was it a big kind of adjustment for you to move from Minister of Natural Resources to the Premier's office?
But it was executive meet between clerical and administrative.
Yes.
You see, so the middle level
yes.
was this. So for me, yes, because of the office, it was office of the Premier. To go and work there was something, many people were looking forward to.
Yes.
I didn't know, but I had seen Sardona twice or 3 times whenever he came to Maiduguri. He visited the school where we were, and his usual, thing, addressing us and giving us some money, even though it was gave a whole school 5,000 pounds, and we were very happy because our pocket money used to be about 6 pence or something, and you end up with about 2 or 3 shillings. And that was, again, he was very generous.
Yeah. So how was it working for him? Eventually became his assistant
yes,
private
but
secretary.
there was a time I told him that, he had a way of, he wanted people to be around, people working for him to be around, like a court, yes. He would quickly take note that somebody was missing. Then he would bring some money and give it to the people who were working there. They would share. And he will plant someone to come when the person absent like me, I was sent on a mission, and he said, I didn't want to be around, sitting around with him in the office. So he went and gave out gowns and money. But he didn't know, or he forgot, well, he didn't know there was something in the mail he received. He would select the ones he wanted first. Or the ones that came either from the Prime Minister's office or from any federal ministry or from a minister. Some politicians who used to write nasty things about him and send him. And he would not want other people to see. He would select these ones out, destroy them. The rest will go to Hassan Lemu, who was the principal secretary at the time I was there.
So Hassan Lemu was your boss?
Yes, he was my boss. And then there was Muhammad Jega, who was the private secretary, the father of the man who was Tahiru's father. And incidentally, he and others also from Jega told me that they were Kanuris.
What kind of man was Ahmed Bello?
Oh, he was
so closely.
Really, he was a great man, because the fact that he was a teacher for many years, he came from a royal family, also contributed to this. He was very generous and very, very considerate of things, and anytime there was a problem, somebody was reported by a minister or commissioner or whatever, he would not take action against just a report like that without asking you. If the man was one of us working there, he would ask him first. And that was very important to all of us. One day, there was a minister from, he used to be an immigration officer, Mohammed somebody. Then he went without getting this approval, many of them. So when he went, he stepped on the toes of Sardona's friend, somebody, a very important politician and a good friend of his. The man telephoned Sardona, and he was very furious. He said, look, let me see his file. Who gave him permission to go? He anticipated the permission. He went.
Yes.
There was no permission. And then he said he had to be sacked. And again, Hassan Lemu and the others handled it as a civil service matter. They gave him a query. Mohammed Jega was okay, but he was succeeded by someone, also Kangiwa. He never cared about the job. Most of the things I did myself. He would leave.
But sir, let me ask you, why is the Sardauna getting all this money that he's distributing?
Well, I don't know.
All over.
I don't know.
Even as his assistant private secretary, who didn't know
I
where
didn't know.
the money
because
was
we
coming
never interfered with these things. And he was just generous only, but I don't think he was a rich person. He was not. At least I was working there until the coup, after the coup.
66.
And he was such a very fantastic man that he got to know that I was coming to office always on time, even if it was during the rainy season. So one day he will just sit down, 7 a.m. was the time. The telephone will ring. I pick it. He was trying to check whether it was true that I normally don't go to the office.
Yes.
He does that from time to time.
Yes. Viewers, we will take a break at this point and continue with the program to another level of his career, ambassador's career, where he actually moved from the Northern Service to the Federal Service, specifically to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where he spent the rest of his career. Welcome back to our Reminiscences session with Ambassador Ahmed Shehu Yusufari. We were at the point when he was in the Northern Civil Service in the office of the Premier up to 1966. But sir, I believe that after the coup has happened, you still stayed on when states were created, and you played a part in trying to organize the new 12-state structure. Yes. In what capacity did you do that?
Well, well, I was in charge of administration at that time, because the man who was in charge of administration had been selected for a higher ADO course, like admin officers course. So he was at Rayanu Dalhatu from Plateau, from Nasarawa today. So they said they were looking for someone, and then Liman Chiroma, who was from Borno here.
Liman Chiroma.
Yes, Liman Chiroma.
Yes.
And he said, but why? This man has been doing the job. Nobody knew. So it was Machito Alhatu who was saying, well, the administrative position there is being run by an executive officer. So we should get someone else. Then Liman Chiroma said, why? But the man has been doing the work satisfactorily, and nobody ever complained. So why look for someone else? So let him stay there. So I stayed there until eventually they also got on Mahmoud Modibo from Adama, who used to be in the cooperatives. So he came, and they said I could then, since they had insisted on getting someone. See, he was converted. He was transferred on equal, grade, where we call them level 14. And the man was complaining, look, because we at the top, there are about 4 or 5 permanent secretaries who are Kanuri. You see, people don't want us to take people like you to go and do the administrative court. They will complain. There was Gujubao, there was Ahmed Talib, there was Mohammed Monguno, this Monguno of Buhari, his father, and then there are 2 others, So about 5 of them, permanent secretary. He said because of that we are under pressure. People complain a lot.
Too many Kanuris.
There are too many Kanuris in that place. So he said, okay, when are they going to? So we stayed there. So they were posting, as far as possible, administrative officers to go to their places of origin, some.
Did you also feel tempted to go back to your state, to the northeast?
Yeah, no,
So that you
I
could-
didn't want.
And were you trained before your first posting to Chad, or you are just
As a diplomat,
yes?
well, not. I was still an executive officer. I was an executive officer. Then when I went my training was on the spot, because nobody trained me.
So you moved to Lagos?
Yeah, I went.
Yes.
By the time I went,
Yes.
there was someone from Borno who was charged the affairs, Bukar Kolo. He later became Ambassador Bukar Kolo.
In Chad?
Yeah, in Chad. So when he went, somebody, Mohammed Bulkachua, Adamu Bulkachua's father, the man who was senator, his father, Shehu Bulkachua at that time was an accounting officer, not accountant. So I was asked to do the accounts, they say. But you know, it required a lot of effort. I had to read the circulars, the financial instructions, and everything to get familiar with it. To the extent that whenever there was a dispute with Adamu Bulkachua,
The accountant?
Yeah, the accountant. We sent a report to accountant general. He said, yes, I was right. I was the one, not a trained accountant. I got it right.
So you are kept in Chad until after 1970?
Yeah, no, 1970. Or this 71, I went to, I think it's 71 or 72, 71. I went to London. You see, and then I was also lucky. There were many people like Musa Usman, governor, like Ibrahim Damchita, so many people coming to this. And then they found, my guiding them and telling them what to do, how to do things, very useful. It was a good posting, but I never rejected any posting. I never lobbied for anyone. I never also lobbied against any posting. Wherever I went, I felt very happy. I was very happy in London. And then after a few months, they asked me to go to France for language course. So I left. It was not there, no formal. We trained, we learned on the job.
Before you became ambassador, eventually in Cameroon, among all the other postings, I know you are in US, Washington, Dakar, which of the postings did you really personally like the best? Before your
It
ambassador?
would be very difficult. The one in London was short, but I was in Dakar. I had an opportunity of being the man in charge because one of the ambassadors died there. One was asked, I think, well, somebody senior to me left. Before the ambassador came, I was in charge of the place, the boss. And when the ambassador came, he also died. But that was at the time I was supposed to leave. So I have been in charge of the mission for about 2 years or so. So I left in April 94 to, no, not 94, 97. And in April 97, I left Dakar for Washington. And I remained in Washington until January 82. So they needed someone to go to where I was before. There was problem in Jamena of the war. They want someone who had served there.
So you went back to N'Djamena?
Yeah,
again,
so I went back to
second time.
Jamena. So I was there, and fortunately the thing ended the same year. You know, Hissène Habré came, he changed the Gukuni, took over from Gukuni, and then our soldiers were gradually withdrawn to go because the others, really, other African countries did not contribute much. No, only Nigeria. The others, no fighting forces were contributed by the others. And all the bills were paid by Nigeria because Nigerian soldiers, and they spent about 80-something million, dollars per.
So it was an important mission for you at that point. You had to be somebody experienced there.
Yeah. So we had to do that, and we were there. So, and then there was the difficulty was many of the people were people who came They didn't know. They thought it was a war. They have won, and they would take everything. They used to ask people to leave their homes. Or if you get somebody with a masked motorcycle, you stop him and seize it. I had to go to, when Sisen Habre took over, the day he came, I had to go and see him. I went to see him to tell him that I had informed President Shehu Shagari that he had come and he has given me some oral message to tell you. Well, in the diplomatic, this very often is not so. I told the ministry everything, but I concocted all these things and I went to see him. I had difficulty because there was nobody who spoke either French, English, Arabic or something. All the people around him were his own tribesmates who spoke only that language. So fortunately, then I saw somebody, you know, I was lamenting, I was talking to myself. I said, how do I get to this man? There is nobody I can talk to. And I was doing it in Kanuri, then one Kanuri speaking person overheard me. He came. I said, what's the problem? I told him what it is. He said, okay, me too, I am Kanubu. We speak the same language. But, you know, I was chargé d'affaires in Khartoum. Then I joined the rebels to come here to fight. So I'll go and tell him. So he went and told him. And he and I had a very excellent conversation, discussions, and he appreciated what President Shagari said I should tell him. And then he said, look, all of us in this place, we know that we cannot survive without Nigeria.
Were you happy ultimately you became ambassador, first in Cameroon, right?
Yes.
Was that would you consider that the highlight of your diplomatic?
No, it's just an ambassadorial thing, you know. There were lobbying, people were lobbying for certain places, and there are those who by nature don't lobby, for or against, never lobby. You should go back and take.
Were you then staying in Lagos before you fully took over?
Yes, well, I was in Lagos where I was. At the time I was nominated for appointment. So I never complained to anybody. So I remained. And then there are many people who didn't know that it was like that. I never complained, I did it.
Was Cameroon a good place to be? Was it a good posting?
Well, it was no problem. It had nothing to do with this is, I wasn't there at the time of Ahijo, but you know, you have, it's very surprising. One of the best people I related to was a Kanuri speaking man who was born in Cameroon. His mother was a Cameroonian. At the time I went as ambassador, he was a gendarme, like this mobile policeman there. So later he died a 2 years ago. He was Kanuri, very influential man. Ahmed Ali, is Ahmed Ali, and we did. It was good because you see the people had this kind of suspicions about Nigeria, that Nigeria was going to do this and that, you know. But actually it was not true. But sometimes we get certain things wrong. When I was ambassador there, I visited the Nigerian community in Bakassi. So Bakassi was, and they quoted that as example, as an example. They said, look, you claim that this is part of Nigeria, look at your ambassador. He went to see the Nigerian community there. Would he go to Nigeria if it was part of Nigeria? Because he was ambassador in Cameroon. He said, look at it, you know. But everybody knew. But the thing was, at that time, there are people who didn't know. See, another problem was there was a time they said I should tell these people they were, you know, exploiting fuel in an area that belonged to Nigeria. Then they didn't have maps. They didn't say anything. They didn't do. I said, so I went to.
So you were given this assignment from your ministry?
No, yes, as ambassador.
As ambassador.
Yeah.
To tell the Cameroonians.
Yes. So I refused to do it at that time. Because if you do, you have to tell them, give them some information.
Yeah, evidence.
Exactly, and that will give them advantage, negotiating advantage later. So I went and obtained maps, even our borders, maps of the borders. They on their own side, they did all they have from Lake Chad to the Atlantic. They did. So I went to buy. So I sent someone before they refused. They said, okay, I know the problem. I put my flag, the Nigerian flag, in my car. I would go, they ran out the office. They came out to greet me, Ambassador, yes. I told them, sometimes we get complaints about, between our borders. So for me to understand what is meant, I must have the maps you have along our border. So that's that. It's not for anything else. But they gave me. And then I told our people, look, you are giving these people advantage. If you want to do this, you must be very specific. You must say is from this distance is so much kilometer or whatever. Because you will lose face if you do, and then later you find that you got it wrong.
Yeah. Are you happy with the way Bakassi was settled?
The
Bakassi issue?
Well, the war was not right, but then they had to find a solution. Yeah, they had to find a solution. It doesn't mean that because 80% of our people in the country, in Cameroon, are Nigerians, so that place is Nigeria. It is not so. It's not so like that.
So one of the best things you are known for is that you serve as the state chief protocol.
Sure.
You are in, I think, most of the regime of General Babangida,
Yes.
into even General Abacha.
Yes.
This is a very central position in the presidency. What did you learn? You worked with Ahmed Bello, Premier of Northern Nigeria. You worked with also another very dominant personality,
Yes.
Babangida.
My
What
experience
is the difference between them?
my experience in working with those people had helped a great deal, because the way they behaved, the way they governed, they were so considerate about people working, with them. And I also learned that to keep your mouth shut, not to get involved in matters that don't concern you, are very important. I never got involved in anything. And I was willing to learn anything people wanted to tell me. I did. Everything any assignment given to me, I did. I never.
Is there similarities between the two personalities?
Who?
Between Ahmed Bello, the Premier, and General Babangida, the military?
Yes, because, they want to think. And, anything that happens, they want to seek advice, and you never know from who. Sometimes it could be from people like us too, and sometimes from outsiders and whatnot. They never rushed to do these things. You see, there was a time about Ahmadu Bello, there was problem with the Western Nigeria politics, and then, Sardona was going to go and campaign for Samuel Ladoke, who was running.
Kintola.
Kintola.
Yeah.
So, but they always sat to discuss what to do, what attitude. Do we really go or we don't? The ministers, all of them, those who are available, especially the senior ones, they will take over the matter and discuss and adopt a position. And they of course, they also sought advice from the security and from the secretary to the government and people who have been in the government for a long time. So, and we also were allowed to be within hearing distance. You see, the thing is, we are not part of the meeting, we will not talk, but we will be around. And our excuse was that if they wanted it for something, for an errand or something, we are around. But
we got to know what is going on.
Yeah, but we knew everything they did.
How is the Babangida style? People remember him as, I mean, he even has a nickname, Maradona.
Yes.
Somebody who knows how to manipulate processes and politics. You are his chief protocol.
Yeah, I know,
Will you say he deserves this?
In politics, their own politics, military politics, never ever concerned myself with that. So I never got involved. You know, I did my work, and actually, even the ministers, there are very many who respected me, simply because I never complained about them. I never went to ask for a favor, never, for myself or for my relations or friends. I never did, you know. They always spoke well of me, you know, so I never complained.
How is your relationship with Babangida himself?
Yes, it was excellent. It was excellent. Wallahi. And I learned a great deal from him, you know, the way he dealt with people, you know. I think he has compassion. He always, he didn't want to see people unnecessarily punished, you know, severe punishment or something like that, you know. He was good. And I don't know if I told you the other day there was somebody from this part of the country who was a very senior person. And then while, maybe before he took position before he became head of state or president of Nigeria, there was something they did, a commission of inquiry. They seized the property of some people. There was one person here who used to be one among the members of the armed forces ruling council or whatever. He was not a military officer. So he had only one house in Lagos. You know, they seized the house. They said he got it corruptly, and they sold it. And his wife came to see me to complain. I said, okay, matters like this are not handled by me, but I can transmit it to the president. I will tell you. Then when I went to tell him, look, this woman has come, she's in my place. And I said, she didn't ask to see you, but she came to tell me about this matter. So I told her that I would do that. He shook his head. He said, this man, only one house he had was taken away. He took his telephone and called the governor. It was in Lagos. The governor, he said, look, this house, I have decided it should go back to the original owner. You look for money and give it to the man, you know, who bought it. But he knew it was the governor who bought it. But he knew who bought it.
Yes.
Yeah, he knew. So things like this, you know, you appreciate people.
The compassion.
Like this. Yeah, there's compassion. You know, he was taking care of the President Buhari's family, you know, even though he was in detention, but he was taking care of all of them, you know.
You know this. You know this as a chief of protocol.
Yes, and you know, even Damka Bali, all the talks he was making, all the things, the criticisms, whenever he needed medicine, treatment, you know, go to hospital, you would charter a plane, take him to Switzerland, and will be treated, come back and do the same. You know what happened, the relationship in the past, he never forgot, you know. He never forgot, he always, even in the army, you know, treated many people.
I think you have been retired now for almost 30 years?
Yeah, 29 now.
Yeah. So, what do? You are back in Maiduguri?
Well, I never wanted to stay anywhere except here. I never wanted to be in Abuja or anything else. But because of the roles we played during the creation of these local government stage structuring and whatnot, some of them may be just ordinary assumptions that we interfered, we lobbied, we did this and that. Okay, yes, a little bit of it, everybody did. But it wasn't much. There wasn't much we did. We didn't get involved in political matters. But everything I was asked to do, I did. And I appreciated, the president appreciated everything. You see, I was never late, even for a day. There was never a time President Babangida had to wait for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes because I was not there.
Wow.
Yeah, always. I always had ready a suitcase in my in my office for 4 days. If we were going to out for 4 days. Even if he said, look, we are going now to Lagos now, or we are going to somewhere.
Your bag is ready?
Yeah, I was ready.
So do you find retirement boring? You have nothing to do?
No, it was not boring. What I did was, since I didn't want to go back to service. I would not be a politician. I didn't like it. So what I did was to just buy a few orchards, mango orchards, and so that I would be going twice a week to see how the people are working, how the thing was doing well. And then I did something. So in our house, in our tradition, in the family, one member of the house, of the family, would at least recite the Quran 1,000 times for the family. Yeah. So my father did, my grandfather did, but of my own, generation there, they didn't. Nobody did, but they did, but not deliberately to do the 1,000. So I said I wanted to do this one. Because at that time, my brother's son had done that 1,000. I said, there is a gap in our own. So I still, within 9 years, I was reading the Quran. I did complete it. Yeah, alone, by myself. 1,000.
1,000 times?
1,000 times, all this. So I take it. This is why people say, anytime you go, you find him reading the Quran. Yes, reciting the Quran. No problem. I didn't have any problem, but I wanted that thing to be maintained. So it is maybe after me, but the ones immediately after me, my nephews, there are those who have done that. So maybe they are children now. It's not ours.
How is family life for you?
In here? Well, the family life is no problem, except those of us who are disciplined, grew up because there is too much freedom now. Women go to, naming ceremony to spend 2 days. Not everybody will agree with this kind of thing. The husband has, he has certain responsibilities, yes, but you are not a prisoner, you are a wife, but no. You have to, consider the husband also, the one who is out. But about what I led, never no complaint about anything. I made.
You have been married many times?
Yes, about 3 or 4 times. You see, because the problem is what I am not used to, and you don't want to challenge. You can go out. You can go to build relations, you bring them, you host them to dinner, to breakfast, and that one, but you don't do. There are certain things you did not learn to do. They are important. Look, you don't do it. So what do we want me to do? You just expect me to stay there without being taken care of, as far as that is concerned. You see, even the children were the same. You don't see them watering. I don't. Okay, now they have the excuse of going there. But sometimes it's because they are sleeping now. Sometimes you come, you don't find a single vehicle here. They've all gone out.
So you water your garden yourself?
Oh, yes, I do.
Without any help?
I'll do that.
Yes.
Sometimes I have to go and shout. You see, the frontage of your room, your parlor there, is like a boiler. So you clean it.
Yes.
Otherwise, I will, rent a house outside for you to go and stay there in the cave. I will keep it clean, but I will never sweep for you. The other things I do, but that one I will not do.
Do you have other hobbies besides gardening and looking after your mango orchards?
No.
Yes.
Well, I read newspapers, I do these things, but playing the things, well, you know, the Boko Haram, since it has become terrible. You
But
know?
are you able to you keep healthy? Do you think the gardening, the
Yes.
moving has helped you to,
Yes, it
to remain
has.
healthy?
And my eating habits also. The traditional Kanuri food I eat.
So all vegetables?
Yeah, only
They're all
vegetables.
vegetables. So what does it go with? But it goes with tendiru,
No,
right?
I have
do you
food
like
additives
the meat?
I buy,
Yeah.
what do they call it? Petroleum, the jelly, and you have all these things, you know, refined these things, that supplements. I use the supplements.
Yes.
But I don't use.
You avoid meats?
Well, doctor said yes, you
Yes.
should avoid meat.
Yes.
So I buy fish.
But fasting is not difficult for you.
Tea and coffee.
Tea.
Yeah, tea, coffee. I have no habits. I've never knowingly taken a single drop of alcohol. I have never knowingly smoked a single stick of cigarette. You know, a cigarette? No, I've not done that. I've not done that. You know, I've not done that.
Thank you, Ambassador Yusufari, for this very inspiring
I should thank you for
talk.
taking your time, coming here and this and that.
Thank you, viewers, for staying with us in this conversation with Ambassador Yusufari. And until we meet again in another edition, goodbye.